everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Grain Gauntlet. We've got 5 questions here from clients and prospects for our owner of Hedge Plus, Patrick Hayes. I notice every morning now when I come in, it doesn't seem to be having as much happening overnight with the war seemingly calming down. So it looks like we're getting back to more of a fundamentals and weather market, and these questions reflect that. So are you ready to go, Patrick?
Ready to rock.
All right, here we go. First question says, is rain in the Midwest becoming an issue for corn bears?
Yeah, it is. I think it is. I know Wisconsin, which isn't a big corn producer. It's the United States, right? But Wisconsin is is the wettest we've ever been in the month of April already. I looked outside my window this morning. I'm kind of on top of a hill. Looked outside, and I have a brand new lake in the valley below me, which wasn't there yesterday. So we're getting absolutely clobbered. Michigan's getting clobbered. Northern Illinois, southwest or southeast Minnesota, parts of Iowa, northern parts of Indiana. There's a lot of areas really wet, but what's really weird is that pocket of wet on both sides. The southeast U.S. is really dry and really hot, 90 degrees temperatures, and they've been drier than heck. And as Alwyn Taylor always says, drought starts in the southeast. It's coming on strong there. And then in the west, Nebraska and further south Kansas, not good shape at all, not enough rain. So we're having this mixed picture with weather, and I think the weather overall, whether it's rain or non-rain, is starting to seep into the bears' thinking a little bit. Yeah, I do think that they should take less risk and maybe see some more excitement from the bull side.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is we're in crop progress report season, and it shows that we're ahead of last year with corn, but that's so heavily slanted because of like Tennessee and Kentucky are so far ahead because they actually have had good weather. But the key states and the biggest growing areas are likely to fall behind here, it looks like.
Yeah, and it's like they're 2 or 3% behind, but it's like 6% done. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be planting 20% a week really soon. So the 3% ahead or behind doesn't matter. The likelihood of us planting more corn becomes less and less and less as the Midwest is slowed down. So it's a real risk. The forecast I'm looking at 8 to 14, and it's above normal precipitation for the whole nation pretty much, but centered in the Midwest again. So if these forecasts hold, the longer it goes, the less likely we're going to get above trendline crop because early planting leads to trendline crop or better. And the more likely we'll have more bean acres and less corn acres. So I think bears for corn have to be concerned.
Okay. All right. This question says, has the war caused enough global economic damage to hurt demand for corn?
Yes. No question. I mean, the longer this drags on, the more disposable income is being spent on non-disposable items like gasoline and food. And when this thing opens up, it's not like, oh, well, everything's going to return to normal in a day. I think the war is going to end pretty quick. I think the emotion of the war, as you talked about earlier, is over. It's not that big of a thing anymore. It's just something that's there. But long-term effects, I think, in a world economy, in the U.S. economy, that's been somewhat at risk, the longer inflation goes, the less likely we're not going to the more likely we will have a recession. I'm not saying we're going to. I think it's still going to get solved quick enough, and I think with what the government can do to facilitate growth again can eliminate further problems. But right now, I'm viewing this as potentially a slowdown in the economy, which means a slowdown in gasoline use, spending, and overall demand and spending on commodities as a whole. Not a great risk right now, but something to watch. And if this does go longer than 2 or 3 weeks, if this is extended and the straits stay closed for any length of time, the more likely. Now, when I say more likely, I'm not going from like 70% for a recession to 90. I'm talking about going from like a 25% to 35%. Still more likely that we're not going to have one, but the risk is getting greater. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. This question says, does the next USDA acreage update come with fewer corn acres?
No. Well, if you're talking that supply and demand report for May, no, nothing's going to change in May. Nothing will change in June in supply and demand report until we get the final planted acres numbers. It's middle of April. Okay, that question's too early. We don't know what the weather's going to be, and if there's any delayed planting still going on at the middle of May. As long as we get the majority of the corn crop planted by May 10th, we're okay. If we start, and we may plant more corn if we do, if things speed up. Heck, we could have a 10-day period and we have the whole Midwest planted, right? You get a big high pressure sitting over the Midwest for 10 days, and all of a sudden this delay is gone and we have ripped, because guys can go so fast now. So a delay is a reason for concern. Wet weather is a reason for concern. It may add some short-term price bump, but we plant so fast that, my goodness, there's guys that can get done in 2 days. The 800-acre farmers can get done 36 hours. I mean, they get ripped, right? So it's just too early of a question right now. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the planting season pans out. Right now, there's some risk, though, that we'll switch to beans.
All right. Well, perhaps we won't see a dramatic change in acres, but this question says, how much yield loss do you think we'll see because no one can afford fertilizer, and it turns out we're not as bought ahead as the experts assumed?
Well, I heard 80% bought ahead. Have you heard anything on that?
Yes, I have. So there was a news story going around yesterday that had the Midwest as the most bought ahead, and they were around 60%, but everywhere else was less than 60%. And if that turns out to be true, and people start foregoing a little bit of, application of fertilizer, does that likely end up with a lower yield?
I think farmers are going to really struggle not to pay that price because, okay, let's look at yield. And you need nitrogen, right? Okay, to have any kind of yield. You forego nitrogen and you lose 20 bushels an acre. 20 bushels an acre times $4 cash. It's a lot of money. Okay, that's a lot of money off the top. Would that $84 times $20, would that pay for the fertilizer? Easily. So even though fertilizer is expensive, the reduction in yield is so significant.
Yeah.
And the only way you can make money at low prices like we have now is to out yield the price. So I think it's going to be difficult for farmers, one, to spend the money on the fertilizer, but they will, because they have to out yield the stinky price. So again, real early in the season to tell if we're going to see less, I would say less corn acres being planted than less nitrogen being put on. I think that's more likely.
Exactly. So that then would get back to, maybe it's not the weather that causes the reduction in corn acres, but the high fertilizer, which apparently is not quite as bought ahead as the USDA indicated. That 80% number came from the USDA, and people are not trusting it very much right now. So
okay,
that'd be interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
and I think you're right, but I think it could be both.
Yeah, sure.
Late planting or not rapid. It's not late planting. It's not rapid planting. Rapid planting leads to more corn acres. So not having rapid planting and having some guys say, hey, I don't want to take the risk with fertilizer costs. I'm going to I don't want to reduce fertilizer on the acres of corn I do have. So I'm going to spend that money, make sure that those acres are really good, but I'm going to switch more to beans because I can't afford that kind of application for all my corn acres. So I'll switch some beans. I can see both adding to a reduction in corn acres on June 30th. That will be a very interesting report.
Okay.
I would not venture a guess right now because
Yeah.
it's just too early.
Okay. All right. Last question. This one came from a prospect. Says, do you think we'll get a good opportunity to price corn in May like we've had the past couple years?
You know, that's been when the high has been. I'm hoping that we have that high. And it sure looks like we could. We moved down 25 cents in new crop. I think we're headed back up. We're up 5 right now on the overnight or the day trade, sorry. And we're up in beans too. I think with weather risk being put in, with the war kind of dragging to an end instead of rapidly ending, I think we could get that rally. That'd be great. This year, however, I think there's a much higher probability of seeing a summer rally. And the reason for that is, yes, El Nino usually leads to above trendline crop in corn, and there's really no correlation with bean yield, but above trendline for corn. Okay, and this is El Nino's coming on strong and fast. The risk with El Nino is having the momentum slow down, okay? And we don't know if that's going to happen, the west to east momentum of the jet stream. If that slows down in a wet environment, you have areas that stay really dry and you have areas that get really wet, and you have reduction in both areas. We need flow across the United States. That has yet to be determined. As Snodgrass says, we got to wait about another month before we know the exact pattern. Are we going to have rapid succession of storms across the U.S.? That would be a great, fantastic big yield. I think there's going to be periods of stagnation with what I'm seeing. I see a big, big high pressure setting up over Indonesia, Australia, China area, in that part of the Western Pacific. Okay, if I'm right on that, that will reduce airflow across the United States, and we'll have periods of hot, dry, and too wet, and systems stuck. We have systems stuck. We will have weather rally. We haven't seen that. We could see that this year. And I saw more hope for weather premium be put in June, July, like we used to.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. Great answers. Great questions this week. Thank you, Patrick. I hope everyone has, a good chance to get on the fields. Hopefully weather is providing that opportunity. Good luck to everyone out there, and we'll do this again next week.
Have a good week, everybody.